All right. Welcome, young and old, to EVTN Nightly News. I'm your host, John the Son of Thunder. So, I guess we'll call it the Nightly News. It's an hour later than normal, even though even though it's kind of fake to be following the daylight savings time stuff. And actually, it looked to me, based on what I saw on a map, that over half of the world's population does not follow daylight savings time. So then it's really just a modernist innovation, and um, it should be rejected. And all it takes, here's the thing, all it takes is for people to collectively ignore it. But, um, yeah. Anyway, thanks for joining me today. We're going to start out with the Rupnik story. The Slovenian bishops in an October 27th statement distanced themselves from Francis's decision to incarnate Father Marko Rupnik in their diocese. The presiding Novo Mesto bishop Andrei Sage considers Rupnik to be guilty because his expulsion from the Jesuits could only be understood as a penal sanction for serious intolerable acts under canon law. Meanwhile, Editorial Domani, an Italian news entity, writes that 5 of Rupnik's victims distrust Francis and his alleged trial of Rupnik and have therefore come out of their former anonymity, so no longer anonymous. All right, so that's a step forward, and it's really probably a step for them to release their identity. Anyway, if any of you are watching the live stream, make sure to leave a comment if you want to. Okay. So moving on, okay, so Pope Francis is summoning all the Spanish bishops to Rome on November 28th because of a so-called problematic state of the seminaries following a February March apostolic visitation carried out by 2 Uruguayan bishops. The VitaNuevaDigital.com learned from the dicastery for the clergy that very, very few seminaries will survive. There are 974 seminaries in Spain. 10 years ago, there were about 1,700. The 70 Spanish dioceses run 45 seminaries. Betraying their anti-Catholic prejudices, the apostolic visitation, the visitators allege notable deficiencies in the accompaniment towards an effective maturity of the candidates, a certain ideologization, in theological and pastoral formation, and a nostalgic tendency in some preconciliar cases. And that's apparently happening in all seminaries, is that they're definitely getting cracked down. And so yeah, it's just a matter of who it's a matter of who is going to analyze these seminaries. And so anyway, I don't know, I can't tell you. Okay, so let me go to the next story here. Let's see. All right, yeah, Francis to crack down on seminaries. So what about in the United States? Here's my thought. Archbishop Christophe Pierre, he is the nuncio to the United States, and I think he's going to authorize more crackdowns on the Latin Mass based on his rhetoric against the Catholic faith. So keep an eye out. And these modernists, and this was my observation, maybe, I don't know, did I say this last week? It's a, they created their own problems so that they could come up with a solution. Their solution is women priests. So how do they create the problems? Well, they kick out anyone who has any traditional inclinations. So all you get is the modernist leaning um, seminarians, and some of them just so happen to be LMNOP. Kind of cringe, but um, yeah, we'll just go with that. Okay. Well, in Africa, they don't really value they don't really have synodal values in Africa. Africa's contribution to the synod was the Catholic teaching on human sexuality. Um, Archbishop Andrew Nikea Funan Fuanya, age 58, of Cameroon. He is the Archbishop of Bamenda, Cameroon. He told the National Catholic Register, here's his quote: "We understand marriage as a union between a man and a woman, and anything short of that is witchcraft." This is something we say very strongly. So, he will be invited back next year, but very begrudgingly, I would expect. That's pretty good. All right. And yet another motu proprio entitled in Latin Ad Theologiam Promovendum on November 1st, but published only in Italian. Pope Francis issued new statutes for the irrelevant Pontifical Academy of Theology. Francis said promoting theology in the future cannot be limited to abstractly reproposing formulas and schemes of the past. Actually, it can. So that's false. Francis calls for a paradigm shift and a cultural revolution, two ideological terms borrowed from Marxism. He said the gospel should be read and interpreted in the conditions in which men and women daily live. But what are these conditions concretely? What in the conditions in which men and women daily live? It should be read and interpreted. Well, you know, if you were a Catholic, wouldn't it be helpful to read the gospel and apply it to our lives, but interpret it in the era in which it was written through the church fathers? Don't we have 2,000 years of tradition that we could use to interpret it, or at least 1950 years of tradition in which we could interpret the gospel? I thought so, but apparently this actually, well, people, I think people are really, really tuning out Francis. Now he's saying a lot of crazy stuff, and he's writing motu proprios like every week. So I don't know, but at this point he's kind of, well, not kind of, he's gone completely off the rails and really kind of makes himself irrelevant to everything. I mean, maybe the eco theologians, like the secular environmentalists, the ones who belong to the secular environmentalist religion, maybe they're kind of into that stuff, into the Francis Church, but like Catholics, they want Catholicism, not worshiping plants. And but the thing is, if you're really worried about the environment, like, I don't know. I mean, obviously, people call it the hypocrites who fly their private jets to these climate conferences. I mean, if you're really concerned about the environment, wouldn't you do a Zoom meeting or like whatever platforms are there. Google has a free one, I think. Zoom's free platform is mediocre. I don't like it. Limits you to 40 minutes. I think Skype has a free one. It limits it limits the number of participants, but I think it's kind of it doesn't limit the time. But anyway, they would, but they don't. All right, Bishop Karl Heinz Weissman of the Diocese of Speyer, Germany, has called on priests in his diocese to grant blessing ceremonies for LMNOP unions as well as adulterous and sinful relationships outside of marriage. This is actually the biggest scandal and the biggest story today. Um, I'm sure I know there's other ones, but this is the biggest one. The bishop affirmed that no one who conducts such blessing ceremonies has to fear sanctions, and that by granting such blessings, we give these believers a clear sign of God's closeness in the community of the church. The bishop announced he was establishing a special probably the same thing, special mediation office in the diocese to deal with requests for blessings outside of marriage, through which couples would be referred to the pastors in their region. And what can I say? We all knew it before the synod. We all knew it before the synod even started, that this is what it was going to come to. And if you were watching this channel, you would have called it too. No one should be surprised at this point, but there's a bishop who's outright promoting LMNOP activity, LMNOP blessings, so-called. And it's not going to stop there. Now in the United States, it's going to take a while before it catches on. But I think some bishops are very, very eager to implement this in their diocese, and we'll see what happens. I can say for sure Bishop Stowe in Lexington is going to be all about it. Bishop, Cardinal McElroy, Supich, of course. They'll all be about this because they were in the past. And there's not going to face, I don't know, is the Vatican outright encouraging this? And they say, oh no, you can't bless LMNOPs. And then a bishop authorizes and encourages LMNOP blessings. There have been bishops in Germany who said, oh no, I'm not going to have any sanctions against priests. But this one outright encourages it. So, kind of I don't know. Is it the first one to outright endorse it? Eventually, very very soon, we'll see a bishop who does public blessings of LMNOPs, and then I'm sure other bishops will follow suit. Kind of a copy. What do they say? Like, if you're a fan of the NFL, they say it's a copycat league. And this is a copycat church, where if one bishop does something and some of the other bishops follow, it's not a lot of original thought. For the so-called surprises of the Spirit, there's not a lot of originality. And there's something weird going on with the live stream. I see, I don't know. I see 0 viewers on the live stream, but I know there's people there. There's some comments, so I don't know what's happening with the live stream, but I'm just going to continue on. Hopefully the video is running smoothly and everyone can see what's going on here. But unfortunately for me, the view count isn't helping with the live stream. Or maybe I'm just that unpopular. That's all right. That would be helpful. It would kind of make me swallow my pride, I guess, if I have pride. I don't know. Hopefully not. Hopefully YouTube doesn't give me a big ego. It's not like I'm I don't know. It's not like I have a following like Taylor Marshall. It's not like I have anything else to say that others wouldn't. But anyway, moving on. The big news that a lot of people have been reacting to was yesterday whenever the Remnant posted a story that says the Remnant has learned that a Vatican document is currently under review by Pope Francis that would reform the papal conclave to exclude cardinals over the age of 80 from its preparatory phase, radically reshape the general congregations, and potentially revolutionize who elects the Pope by having laity and women religious comprise 25% of the vote. Um, and if you're on this live stream, please comment because it says I have 0 people on the live stream right now. Let me know if there's any problems with the live stream. So, uh, so excluding cardinals from the age over the age of 80 from its preparatory phase. So they're involved in discussions, but they can't vote. I believe it was either John Paul. No, it was definitely. I think it was Paul VI who banned cardinals over the age of 80 from voting, and the that sort of rigged the conclave into a leftist direction. And the tides have been turning for a long time, but it might take a while for them to completely shift. But people are getting very, very unhappy with, the recent pope. Well, popes with an S. Although I think most of the cardinals, though, if they're not fans of Francis, they were probably fans of one of the previous popes. But for those of us who want a pope who enforces the Catholic faith, we're gonna have to go back well before I was born, in the era of my grandparents. I think my one grandfather was born. Well, he was born over 100 years ago, maybe in like the early 20s, early 1920s. So we're going back. But yeah, so what Paul VI added more voting cardinals, and then JP2 added even more. And unfortunately, because JP2 really did not name very good cardinals. Really not very good. But the Pope is fully within his rights to reform the conclave. Even Francis could even name his successor, potentially, which would be kind of a scandal, but I believe that's fully within his right. And so it also says that laity and women religious could comprise 25% of the vote. Now, this is from the Remnant. The Pillar also reported this, and I believe that they did not. I believe that they didn't copy each other. They both got it somewhere. Maybe from the same source, maybe from different sources. I don't know, but I think they both released the story, or maybe not. Maybe was it the Pillar? I don't know. It's entirely possible the Pillar didn't break the story. I'm just kind of going by what I thought. Let me see here. No, it was the Remnant. I'm sorry. I apologize for that. Um, yeah, it was definitely the Remnant. But getting back to this, having laity and women religious, laity and women religious. So what does that even mean? Does that mean just random lay people? And the new church, they believe that essentially no one is outside the church. From a certain perspective, like, oh, well, baptism of desire or whatever. So you can theoretically say, okay, Greta Thunberg could vote in this conclave. Hillary Clinton could vote in this conclave. Who knows? Who really knows? Or if you're talking about lay people that have to be a baptized Catholic, well, Nancy Pelosi is one. So you can have these people theoretically voting. Or you could have James Martin, because if you're not confined to cardinals, then you can have these people. Now, uh, Ghirlanda, who had been tasked by Pope Francis with drafting revisions to conclaves, he said, I do not know anything about it, and any implication I have in it is a pure lie. He said that to EWTN News. Now, Ghirlanda, it's Cardinal Ghirlanda S.J., Jesuit. And you know what? With Jesuits, you can't really take them at their word. We learned that from Pope Francis. You can't take them at their word. Oh, the pillar did report it. Okay, my apologies. I'm confusing. Thanks for joining the live stream, Ad Volantis. It looks like you are the only one. Unless there's something wrong with the live stream. Maybe I'm just that unpopular. I don't know. But anyway, I appreciate your view and appreciate your comments. I'll get to them after I'm done ranting. But the pillar, citing a senior canon law close to the Vatican, reported that knowledge of the process to reform conclaves is widespread in Vatican canonical circles, as is the role of Cardinal Ghirlanda. So, yeah. Now, I'm just going to read through this a little bit more because I just pulled this article up from Catholic News Agency. General congregations are the preparatory meetings of the College of Cardinals held every day before the start of the election. They are a time for cardinals to familiarize themselves with the regulations concerning conclaves, and according to the norms enforced, to express their views on possible problems, ask for the explanations in case of doubt, and make suggestions. During general congregations, cardinals can address the entire college, but one of the proposed changes is to make, according to the pillar, is to make these exchanges into spiritual conversations, that's the quote, of smaller groups of cardinals, similar to the small group discussions at the Synod on Synodality Assembly in October. So basically, it's rigged. They're going to try to break up the good guys and try to water them down in a group of bad guys. And there's a lot of question mark cardinals. Really, I mean, question mark in terms of what do they actually believe, the ones on the so-called margins. And I said they could be our hope. They're from middle of nowhere, and Francis just decides to name them a cardinal because, oh, poverty, whatever. And I don't know, they could be very good people, which would be very bad for the possibility of electing a second Pope Francis, because if they are good people, then they're not going to want a Pope Francis. They're going to want someone who has a shred of Catholicism. And all right, are you still with me, guys? All right. Conclaves which take place in the Sistine Chapel are held under strict secrecy. The cardinals who participate take an oath to observe absolute and perpetual secrecy about the ballots and their scrutiny from anyone outside the College of Cardinals under penalty of automatic excommunication. The cardinals, observe absolute and perpetual secrecy. Can you imagine if someone like Father James Martin is in there? How much information is America Magazine going to be getting leaked to them? How much information is the National Catholic Distorter going to get leaked to them? They had 5 reporters over there. Well, reporters, distorters, I could call them. Propagandists, anti-Catholic propagandists, maybe, I guess you could say. But they had 5 people over there in Rome for the Synod. Now, why did they do that? You don't do that. You don't go over there for a meeting unless you're going to get information, right? You're not going to go there to sit for a month. It's probably really expensive, although they can afford it. I'm not sure. I did a report on them years ago. It's on this channel somewhere. Just if you search on my channel, it's like Financials of a National Catholic Reporter or whatever. I analyzed their 990 form, and their CEO made like well over 100,000, I think. At least 100,000. I don't know about well over, but yeah, that'd be nice. But it's not worth selling your soul for that kind of money. That's for sure. All right. Yep, and Ad Volantis, he's the man of the day because in these comments, it's hard for me to see this. I ever complain about how much I don't like the new live chat because I can't read it very well. The problem is not the rainbow priests at all. Oh, I can't say that keyword. Sorry, might get banned. Blessing rainbow marriage is the church's last chance to fill the pews. It won't though. It really won't. There'll be maybe a few people that show up to a Jesuit church, but um, people are just going to go to the SSPX. Does Jimmy Rainbow Martin get to vote for Pope Francis II? Oh, you asked that before I said it. Okay, you called it first. Better Jimmy Martin will be Pope Francis II. Well, if he's there, I mean, might as well, right? The Cardinal has denied that Francis changing the election is part of the plan. It is a head fake. He will change, but will be less shocking. But the little change is yes. So they do their small changes like, oh, I'm not going to I'm not going to ban cardinals from talking at the Synod. I'll just bring in lay people to vote. And it's like, oh, okay, well that's the compromise, and that's the compromise, right? So a lot of good points here. I did also see it was Anthony from Avoiding Babylon. You may have seen his YouTube channel. He has some good stuff. They do a lot of live streams. A lot of YouTubing. Really that'd be exhausting. But he said that he thought maybe it was based on the news today of the Cardinal denying it. It's possible that they leaked the information strategically so they could see who has access to what sources, and the Vatican can more easily identify those leakers um, and then control it in a certain way. But I don't know that they're that. I don't know that the sources can be that easily manipulated. I do think people just have sources, and it happens. Just like I don't know. I mean, I don't have a lot of sources, but I have some, and I'll I'll release information when I have it, and I rarely do. Um, yeah, but that's part of what's going on now, and that's been happening since Vatican II, where they're saying, well, we're not doing women priests, but we'll do altar girls. Oh, okay. And like, oh well, Eucharistic ministers. Well, you can have them at like stadium masses, or like what did John Paul II even kind of tried to backpedal a little bit when he said Eucharistic ministers should not be used excessively. And um, what does excessively mean? Does that mean that they should be used at every mass? Like, if they shouldn't be used excessively, should they be used at a daily Novus Ordo where there's 10 people that attend? But don't tell that to them, because active participation, and don't tell the priest who shuts it down, because he'll be reported to the bishop, and they'll be right back there up on the altar. And don't tell me it's and the same thing is with this created crisis of vocations. Oh, well, you're telling a young priest that he can't say the Latin Mass for the next 20 years, and a woman's going to tell him what to do for the next 20 years. Because women run the parish councils and they have the power, and so the priest, he'll have to face the people and like it. He'll have to have Eucharistic ministers and like it, and he'll have to give communion in the hand and he'll have to like it. But if you don't like any of those things, then you're not drawn to the Novus Ordo priesthood. So who's going to join? Really? It's the traditionalist orders, and they're turning people away. So that's what we're dealing with. All right, well, for everyone who watched this video, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, this has been EVTN News. We are the laity, and we will not be silent.